Hello, it's Dr. Alan Yim. In this video, I'm going to be talking about tempo change. Tempo change is simply the changing of the speed of the beat. And in music, there are many ways of doing this. One way we've already seen is the fermata. So what does the fermata do? It puts a little hold on the note that it's over. And then the fermata that you see here means that you can hold it a little bit longer, and you use your judgment how long you would like to do that. If I played it without the fermata, it would sound like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So you notice that the first one doesn't sound quite right, and it's up to the person performing it to decide how long these things should be held, and actually how long to even play this section, how fast. I invite you to go and click on the two links and hear Leonard Bernstein's interpretation and also Gustavo Dudamel. Bernstein was probably the most famous of the American composers in the 20th century. He was also a composer. And Gustavo Dudamel was the youngest composer who was ever given a position with a major orchestra, the Los Angeles Philharmonic, when he was only 27. He came from Venezuela. And of course, Leonard Bernstein, I think he's a native New Yorker. So go check out those two recordings and be sure to come back so you can hear some more changes in tempo. You can also try playing this yourself. So I've indicated the notes here on the keyboard. The first two notes are G and E flat. And then the next two, F and D. This opening is so iconic and it's easy to play, but it's almost like Hamlet's to be or not to be. Everybody has their interpretation of how it should be done. So go ahead and give this a shot, make a video of it and send it in, and let me see how you would interpret this opening. Let's take a look at some other ways we could change the tempo in addition to fermatas. We could speed up. So in the score, we might see these terms: accelerando, stringendo, stretto, maybe poco a poco. Poco a poco means little by little. And so after it, you have to tell the person what they're supposed to be doing a little bit. It could be poco a poco stretto, poco a poco accelerando. You could also put a tempo, poco a poco vivo, or some instruction to say little by little, fast. Okay, so I'll give you an example of this. I invite you to go listen to the last section, the fourth movement of Peer Gynt Suite Number 1. So this little Roman numeral 4 here indicates that it's the fourth section. It happens to be the last section of the piece. It's titled In the Hall of the Mountain King. This is a very famous opening, and let's see if I can play it. It just sounds... So some of the instruments do this, and then you hear... So it has this chromatic line going down. And throughout this piece, it gradually speeds up. So this is Peer Gynt's encounter with the Mountain King. You can see the whole illustration over here on the left. So it's a little bit creepy, but it's kind of fun creepy, like this cartoon here. And at the end, he tries to escape by running out of the mountain. So there are a couple themes here that are really key for romanticism. It's telling a story. It's a scene somewhat out of nature. So there's a setting there in the mountain, and of course the supernatural, these elves or the Mountain King. So not a realistic character, but a story from literature, very typical of the Romantic period. Go listen to that and come right back. It's a short little piece. Let's go on now to slowing down. An indication to slow down is ritardando, ritenuto, rallentando, allargando. These are pretty much used interchangeably, even though they have slightly different meanings. So ritenuto is like suddenly slowing down, whereas ritardando and rallentando, they're a more gradual slowing down. Sometimes people interpret allargando as a broadening out, so you have this feeling of spaciousness as it gets slower. And again, you could use poco a poco with any of these terms, or you could say poco a poco adagio, little by little, really slow, something like that. Let's take a listen to an example. This is a piece that actually goes faster and then goes slower at the end. And the title of this is Gretchen am Spinnrade, Gretchen at the spinning wheel. The Austrian composer Franz Schubert wrote this piece. He wrote over 500 songs, all of them really artistic. And it's not just the words and the feeling in it, but the piano part as well. So Schubert himself was a pianist, and I love the fact that he puts the picture into the piano. So here you see Gretchen sitting in a room, forlornly looking out the window. She's remembering a romantic encounter, her lover, who she, I guess, cannot really get to at the moment. She's actually sitting at the spinning wheel in the song. So you hear the spinning wheel, and it sounds like this. So in the picture, you see it at the left. It's work, basically. She's stuck in this room, and she cannot leave, and her lover cannot come to see her. And it's a little bit of a question whether he's ever going to come back. In addition to that, you hear this in the piano. So that's sort of the mechanism of the spinning wheel together. The wheel spins smoothly and the notes are connected, and the mechanism makes this clattering sound throughout. And then there's a bass line that goes with it. So you'll hear it change throughout the song. In addition to it, of course, she's singing, and she sings about how her heart is heavy and she longs for his kiss. As she starts remembering, it gets a little bit more excited and the tempo goes faster. And then the singer reaches a high point, a high pitch, a focal point on a very loud note, high in the register. And then it comes back and starts over again, slowly, back to the original tempo, odd tempo. And this time she builds up again, but she kind of maybe loses hope, and she feels the sadness and the heaviness of her heart and her anxiety. She says her peace is basically ruined. So at the end, you hear the spinning wheel slow down and stop. And that's the slowing down, the retard at the end. So go ahead and take a listen to this masterpiece sung by Jessie Norman, very famous soprano, and come back when you're done listening to that. Okay, the last piece I have for you demonstrates tempo rubato. Tempo rubato is the flexibility of the tempo. And originally it would mean maybe a flexibility, somewhat speeding up and slowing down in the melody over a steady beat. But now it's become kind of just synonymous with speeding up and slowing down for expressive purposes. It's not something that's usually written into the score, but performers just assume that they're supposed to do this if they're playing music that's in the romantic style. One of the most famous pieces that was an encore for the pianist Vladimir Horowitz, the greatest, maybe considered the greatest romantic pianist of the 20th century, was this piece called Kindersehnen, Scenes from Childhood by Robert Schumann. So Scenes from Childhood has many movements to it, and the seventh movement is titled Träumerei. It means dreaming. So this is a picture of basically a child asleep and dreaming. It's a very short, modest piece, and you can see the entire composition here at the left. So this would be called a character piece, and to make a longer piece, many sections, many short scenes from childhood are put together to create the entire work. This is not a childish piece. In other words, this is scenes from childhood, but seen from the adult perspective. So when you go and watch this recording, you can see the audience is intently focused on his playing, and they're listening to the expressivity that Horowitz has in his playing. He's a master at controlling the speed and the louds and the softs. And you can see in the score here, well, there's a metronome marking, but you might as well ignore that. There's markings to slow down, to go back to the regular tempo, to slow down, back to the tempo, and at the end to slow down again. But throughout it, you'll hear he does not play it steadily. So if I were to play this piece steadily, it might sound something like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3. 1, 2. Well, okay, let me try that again. So if I were to play it steadily, it might sound something like this. And so on. So I'm playing with a very steady beat, but nobody plays it like that. And if they do play it like that, it would probably consider it to be a poor rendition of it. Just as when I speak, sometimes I might speak a little bit faster, other times I may slow down to put some emphasis. It's the same here. So I invite you to go listen to Vladimir Horowitz's interpretation of Traumerei. When he was alive, he often used this piece as an encore to end the evening. And obviously, it meant something to him, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching.